welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We are welcoming a cast of thousands. Good morning to Derek Gordon, Christy Pettit-Cox, and Joel Harris. Good morning to all of you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know what I love is when we have people from different things all in one place because there's been some kind of a collaborative effort going on, and that's what we've got going on this morning. Derek, you're from Stark County Library, although people are saying, wait, isn't he from the park? So, but tell us a little bit. You kind of made a recent transition. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I did. Very, very fortunate and blessed to be working for Stark Library now. Worked for the city of Canton for about 10 years, 5 of them with Canton Parks. Had a really fruitful experience there, but really excited and privileged to work with a great group of people at the library. A very progressive group, and we're doing some exciting things. And one of the neat parts for me was I was able to transition continue to work with this Bike Smart program that we have, which is a very innovative program, something that bike share is pretty common around the country, but the way in which we do it here in Stark County is very different, and I think probably the most approachable system in the United States at the time that we started it, and I think other people are starting to follow our lead.
And it's fun to see people actually really using it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Christy Pettit-Cox from SARTA, how do the buses work in on this?
Well, every one of our buses, including our ProLine buses, have 2 bike racks. So we have a hub at our Cornerstone location. So anyone can come grab a bike, put it on the bus, and use it to get to their destination when they get there.
So you don't even have to worry. Some people won't go to some of the neat bike paths that are around because you have to drive in traffic first. But no, you don't. You can pop it on a bus, take it to, and then there you are, traffic-free, riding your bike.
Correct.
And Joel Harris, perhaps one of my favorite reasons is we're talking about this is because the idea came up from a middle school student, right? You tell us a little bit about Tom Todd and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run an organization called Tom Todd Ideas. Tom Todd stands for Tomorrow's Ideas Today. And we work exclusively with middle school students, and we help take the immense amount of energy and ideas and imagination that middle schoolers bring to the table and channel those in helpful directions that help our communities grow and thrive. So this idea for Bike Smart came from a group of middle schoolers that were part of one of our summer camps. We call our summer camps Camp What If, and we have both overnight and day camps that we run every summer. These kids a few years ago now were part of a week-long day camp that we ran in downtown Canton, where they sort of explore the city, see all the possibilities that exist in the community, and also where some of the challenges are. And then they dream up ways to connect those possibilities and challenges together and transform them into opportunities for all of us. So they dreamt this up as part of that camp and pitched it out at the end of the week. And Derek Gordon actually was sitting in the audience that night, and when he was with Canton Parks, and as were some folks from the library, and they heard what the students threw out there, and they said, wow, absolutely, this is exciting, and what an opportunity to jump in on something. And so they've really taken it there and powered it forward since then.
Where did the idea come from to use a library card to rent the bike? Was that from the student? Was that from the library folks in the audience? Or where did that come from?
Yeah, it was really driven by the students. As they explored the community throughout the week, they saw lots of different pieces. So they went on a walking tour of one of the park trails. They visited Altman Hospital and sort of heard about some of the health challenges that are present in our community and health opportunities that are present as well. They heard about, they went to Refuge of Hope and were able to see some of the challenges faced with transportation issues and related to homelessness and poverty. And so they sort of started piecing all this together, and they said, well, what if we had a bike share? But instead of charging people for it, like a lot of other communities for, what if it was an asset to the community that was a resource that was available to everyone, and that there wasn't a barrier between someone getting a bike and being able to get to a job interview or get to a job or get to a grocery store or get to a park and enjoy outdoors, to be able to use exercise opportunities. And so one of the things that they found as they explored that was that there weren't was that they had been discouraged, the city had been discouraged from looking at this as an opportunity because they said, well, we'll never make a profit profit and there's not the infrastructure in place. And the students said, well, what infrastructure already exists? And they knew the libraries were around and they knew the trails were around. And so they said, let's use the libraries and the trails that already exist as the base infrastructure for this concept. And it makes it more accessible and available to everyone.
How long ago was this when they got this idea?
I want to say that it was about, I think we just finished our we're just starting our 4th season of Bike Smart, if I recall correctly.
Okay, because back then there might not have been as much infrastructure, but since that time we've had a lot of things like bike lanes built into, I know, downtown Canton and so forth. So is there more infrastructure? I guess I'm answering my own question. There seems to be more infrastructure now than there was even when you got the idea. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always more going up. And I've got the beautiful lanes on 12th Street. You've got some trails that are being connected through the camp parks. You've got new lanes that are out near the Strip that are connecting different pieces, Kent State Stark and Stark State and other pieces out there as well. So.
It's awesome. Did anybody mention how green this is? I mean, first of all, to just have people riding their bikes more often, it's healthy, but it's healthy for our environment as well, yes?
Absolutely, and I think that was one of the things that attracted so many partners to it. It checks a lot of boxes for a lot of organizational goals, and the library, kind of took it by the reins. Someone had to sort of own it, and I give them credit for at the time saying, we loan out a lot of things, but why not bikes? And once they kind of took that on, and there was someone to sort of own the responsibility there. The parks are such a logical fit because, again, they're always focused on green initiatives, and they have the trails. And I know the county parks and the city and others are, Stark Parks are always working really hard to try to connect those trails and make it more accessible for people, not just for recreational value, but for commuting value. At some folks trying to use it for that purpose.
Yes.
It just made a lot of sense. So in 2015. Those 3 partners, Stark Library, Canton Parks and Rec, and Stark Parks, all said, let's split this. We'll subsidize it. It fits our mission. I think it's something that our taxpayers would all enjoy and approve of, and signed a kind of a 3-year agreement to pull that together. Had, I think, 6 hubs. And then in 2017, Sardis started experimenting with the bike racks on their buses and everything else. And they said, you know what, I think this is something that we can really dive into, and I know it has an added value for them as well.
Well, right. Also green, because you're trying to get fewer people in individual automobiles and taking the bus where you need to go. So this is your second year, the second summer of it then. 2017 is when the bike racks went on?
Yes.
So second year. What kind of response did you see last year? Did you see a lot of people using it?
We did. We actually, the Bike Smart Hub was installed in June of last year, I think end of May, beginning of June of last year, and we had a kickoff in July. They were doing a little bit of testing to make sure it lined up with the system and that. And we did a huge event where we had the mayor, it wasn't the mayor, it was the deputy mayor ended up coming. And some other community leaders come out, and they did a bike ride basically around our transit center. And we had some music and selfies, and it was a big, huge event. And people really liked it. And we were able to talk to them about how to get the bikes on the bus and where they could go. The big thing for us is, again, that connectivity. We know we can't take people every single place they want to go. However, having a bike on the bus and that can finish out their trip. We call it the first and last mile of their trip. So if somebody has to go to the doctor and maybe they have to walk a half a mile, instead of walking, now they can ride, and they don't have, as far of a commute to go or as long. They can have a little bit of downtime. But the other side of that is one, it's helping people stay physically fit. 2, it's something that people can do as families. They can take these bikes out and do things as a group. And downtown Canton is beautiful in the summertime. You can go around, ride your bike, check out things in the community, take them to a trail. You can do any of those types of things and utilize our buses to get you to and from the hubs and things like that.
I should know this, but I don't. So I'll go ahead and ask, what are the hours that the buses run?
Well, our bulk of our service starts around 5:15-ish in the morning. We have a couple of routes that start at 5, but the bulk of it starts running about 5:15 and runs until 9:45. And then we have what we call our late night loops. There's 3 routes that run late at night that kind of pick up for all the other routes that are not running, and that runs until about 2 in the morning.
Wow. So you really could. My thought went to First Friday. What a fun thing to be able to, and you are operating in the evening so that people could actually do this, as you're saying, walking around downtown Canton, enjoy First Friday and everything, but take a bike.
You could,
A bike/bus. How much fun. All right. Well, how does it work? I know when we as a family go bike riding, there's this whole big long initial thing where we're hooking them up to our bike rack on our car, and you have to have certain special locks and it's hold these bolts, and sometimes it's a scene right out of A Christmas Story, when the thing's flying all over the place. So tell me how this works. How do we hook a bike up onto the bus? Or is there a helper, or do you come with your own lock, or how does this work?
Well, each one of our buses is outfitted with a bike rack on it, and it will hold 2 bikes. We have looked into some bike racks that will hold more. The issue is the turning radius right now, so we're still working through that with some of the logistics of having an extended bike rack on the front of the bus. But basically, there's just a handle that you grip. It releases the lock. You pull it down. You put your bike up. You slide this little bar up over the tires to anchor it on. You board the bus, pay your fare, sit down, enjoy the ride, and then when you get off, you do everything in reverse.
Is there a training involved, or the first time that you do it, you just fumble through?
Well, there's multiple. You can look on our website. We have instructions. We're actually getting ready to do a video of how to do it. But all of our drivers are trained on how to do it. So if they're at the transit center and they're struggling, we have road supervisors that can help them out. We have drivers that can help them out. And there are plenty of passengers that have utilized it that know how to do it. So I've seen people. I've been down in the zone when people are trying to do it, and someone's like, "Here, let me show you. This is how you do it." So it's fairly simple, but it can seem a little
first time for anything. Yeah. But you do. It's one of those things you want to look smooth because you have so many people watching you. So want to be smooth while we're doing this. Okay, great. You will have a video up, and we will recommend.
We're working on it.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
So 2 at a time. Do the bus drivers need any special training because now they're driving a bus with a bike rack? Nope.
No. Part of their training when we train all of our drivers is they train on the bus with and without the bike rack open. So that's just part of their training. They learn it. It's just part of every day. It's just like towing a bike or towing a boat on your car.
This just sounds like Canton is way ahead of the game. Are we?
In this particular way, we are. Like I said, there are bike share programs all across the country. And we're certainly not the first to have a bike share, but most all of them are monetarily driven in terms of profits, or at least it's based on someone paying money to get the bikes. We do have a credit card feature that we have to enable for security reasons if the bike would go missing. But in terms of anybody having to pay for it, unless you don't return your bike or you're way overdue for the day, it's free. So it's really innovative in that way, and including the library card with that to go and register it or to sign up at the library is very unique. And it seems very innovative, but for us at the library, it's like, well, we loan other things, so why not bikes?
Why not?
And it's a little bit higher ticket item, but it's something that I think the books and the e-materials and things we do have a really high value, but this is something unique. And it definitely connects the community in a very different way than many of the other items we've loaned out in the past.
What kind of bikes, and Joel, I'll throw this out to you, what kind of bikes do you get or did you go after? And how did you know what sizes and all those kinds of things?
So they actually partnered with a third-party organization that does bike shares in different locations. And so they handle all the actual getting the bikes and the equipment that makes sure that the bikes are tracked and don't just go missing, and where they get docked in, all these different things. So they handle a lot of the stuff that's maybe outside of the purview of any of the partnering organizations, and they're able to really handle those pieces. And so they've got really great bikes that are built for being used on a bike share, because if just you or I grab our bike and start loading it out to lots of random folks, maybe isn't going to hold up over time, right? But
right.
These bikes are really planned for that. And then they have a partnership locally with Ernie's bike shop, who actually goes around and makes sure that the bikes stay up and operational, and relocate some of the bikes if needed. So, one of the fun things, and this is where Sarda really comes in as a great partner, is you can do A to B with our bike share setup, where you can get a bike in one location, ride it somewhere, take it on a bus, get off somewhere else, do your appointment, and then park a bike at a different location, one of the 8 different spots that are currently operational, and be able to do that. But then maybe we could end up with all the bikes at one location. But one of the things that sort of has worked out is that won't happen because Ernie sort of shuffles bikes as needed to make sure that there's different bikes available at different stations.
Everything you're saying just reminds me what usually happens when somebody gets a great idea. You start to think of all the logistics, and it just wears you out. You say, okay, that's why we haven't done this, so we're not going to do this. But I love that this organization pushes through, that you all 3 have pushed through and worked with others that you needed when there was a missing part and made it happen. It's just so cool. We need to take a very brief little break here, but we will be back with Derek and Christy and Joel after these words. You're listening to Our Community.